Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to our regular City Council meeting for January 25, 2021. We'll start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll call the meeting to order at this time and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. You've all got your agenda, I believe Thursday or Friday. You've had a chance to look it over. I would entertain any motions at this time to approve the agenda.
This is Councilmember Krogman. I would move approval of the agenda as sent today, not the one sent earlier.
Okay. Motion made to approving the agenda that was sent today. I believe there was a insert sent out. Was there a correction? Am I correct, Jasper?
Yes, Mayor Kirby. There was a correction to the minutes that was made, and then two items were added. One was the second reading of Ordinance 589, which is dealing with the City Council meeting times, and then also an item related to the recommendation to hire a finance director.
Okay. With those items added, Councilmember Krogman made a motion. Do we have a second?
Sullivan, second.
Councilmember Sullivan, second. Any discussion, thoughts? Otherwise, I'll have Administrator Krugel take a roll.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Krogman.
Aye.
Councilmember Losi. Councilmember Schneider.
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilmember Swanberg.
Aye.
And Mayor Kirby.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 5-0.
Moving on to the consent agenda, there's, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items there. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine and have been made available to the City Council at least 2 days in advance of the meeting. These items will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the agenda and considered in normal sequence. So at this time, do you want to review those, or should we just go ahead and make a motion?
I can review them quickly if I may, Mayor Kirby.
Thank you.
Thank you. As mentioned earlier, the letter A minutes, there was a revision to that was sent out today. We do have disbursement approvals of $887,369.40. Nothing to note other than kind of status quo things that we pay every month. Item C, the Airport Commission appointment. We have Deborah Wilbright, who has reapplied. She was on the commission for the previous 3 years. We have a mower grant from the FAA that in the state of Minnesota that we have a grant agreement for. And then we have a series of items for surplus declaration. So a bunch of miscellaneous items, but items to note are forfeited vehicles from the police department. And I will note that we are trying to clean up that area around that water tower because in the next probably year and a half, maybe 14 months, we will be having to demo that water tower that the cars are currently sitting around. So we are actively trying to move some vehicles that have been forfeited for some time. So you may have seen some that are in there, but we really haven't seen an uptick in vehicles that we're taking in. We're just trying to kind of get rid of them to save some space. So that's all I have.
Thank you. With that said, anybody have any questions for our city administrator? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Sullivan.
Sullivan, Councilmember Sullivan, thank you. Do we have a second?
Schneider, second.
Councilmember Schneider seconded. Any discussion? Comments? Otherwise, we'll take a roll.
Thank you, Mayor Kirby. We'll go Councilmember Krogman.
Aye.
Councilmember Losi. Councilmember Schleter,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Swanberg,
Aye.
and Mayor Kirby.
Aye.
Thank you. 5-0.
Public comment. If you wish to participate in the public comment, you must sign up prior to the commencement of the meeting. Negative remarks about the city, staff, or employees is not allowed. You will have a time of 5 minutes to comment. The total public comment period shall be 30 minutes for non-agenda items and 30 minutes per agenda items. Disruptive and disorderly behavior will not be tolerated. Do we have anybody at this time would like to make any public comment? Administrator Krugel.
Mayor Kirby, we do not have anybody who has signed up for public comment, and it doesn't appear we have anybody from the audience who is raising their hand to participate in public comment.
All right. We'll give it another second or two here.
Yep.
And if we don't have anybody at this time, we can move on without any type of motions. Item 6A, vacant council seat appointment. City Administrator Krugel, you want to walk us through this process we're going to go through tonight?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Kirby. I appreciate it. And what we've defined tonight is a process to kind of go through an interview process with 4 applicants that we received. We published their applications in the agenda packet. Those individuals being Robert Broder, Johnny Favalise, Leah Mahoney, and Joseph Stiff. Now, this may get awkward a little bit with transferring people from having their video available and just that whole process. So I ask you give me a little bit of time to do that because we really haven't done this yet in the past. So, but we will be interviewing 4 individuals. There's 5 questions. The questions have been sent out to the individuals ahead of time. They all received them around, I think, 5:05, 5:08, something like that today. Basically, we'll go through the interview process. Each city council member, it still appears that Councilmember Lozey is not, I think he is present now. So if he wasn't going to be present, then Mayor Kirby would take his question. But we have 5 questions split up between the 5 council members. And each council member will ask the same question to each candidate, so just to be consistent. And then after the interview process, we ask that the question answers are 90 seconds or less, so nothing too in-depth, about a minute and a half. And then after everything's done, then we'll go into the discussion portion. And what we're looking at is if a city council member or the mayor would like to make a motion to appoint an individual, then they can do so at that time. If there's a second, then that would discussion would ensue after that, and then eventually a vote on that individual if we have a motion and a second. So again, the mayor, any city council member can do that after the process starts, and I'll just kind of let the mayor initiate that process after the interviews are completed. We will need a simple majority, so I believe we have 6 council members tonight. So in order to get somebody appointed, they will need 4 votes, just to be clear as far as the process goes. So with that, I don't believe I have anything else other than we could get started, and give me a second. The order is just alphabetical, with Robert Broder starting. So are there any questions before I invite Robert Broder in to be a panelist, and then we can start interviewing?
No questions here.
All right, give me 1 second and I will try to do this. So, Mr. Broder, if you can hear us,
Yes.
I moved you into the panelist realm, and I'll hand it off to the mayor to kind of get this process started.
Yeah, I'm just glad, Jasper, that my wife doesn't have that mute button.
Hey, Candidate Broder, let's just keep in mind I'm the mayor, so
Yes.
I'll start this. You're going to be asked 5 questions, Mr. Broder, and you just answer those. How much time are we giving for each answer, Administrator Krugel? Is it 90
Yep.
seconds?
Yep, sorry, 90 seconds is what we're looking for to keep it under 90 seconds.
Okay. And again, Mr. Broder, happy to have you here tonight. And at this time, we're going to start with the 5 questions. We're going to start with Councilmember Krogman. He'll ask you the first question.
Yes, thank you. Would you please describe your background and how it qualifies you to be an effective and responsible member of the Suer City Council?
Thank you, Noel. Well, I've lived in Suer for 37 years. I'm retired. I've been married for 48 years to my dear wife, Sandy. Former member of the City Council, former mayor. I've been involved in a number of state positions during those period of time. And I think that those are all listed in the application that I provided. Past member of the, as president of the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities, and I continue active in the community on about a number of 8 other boards. And I'm pleased to be able to have a chance to visit with you guys.
Thank you,
Question number
Mr.
2.
Broder.
Yeah,
Question
Dave.
number 2, sorry. Please describe the skills you have developed personally and professionally that will help you as a Lease Suer City Council member.
Thanks, Dave. Well, for 24 years before I retired about 13 years ago, I headed up a rather large organization of a variety of different folks. I believe I can work with other people. I also think I can inspire others to do things. One of the things I'm really kind of pleased about is in our community is back in 1998, had an idea, brought together a city, school, interested people, organizations. And when we brought this idea forth, the principal of the high school thought that I was smoking something. But I said, we can do together and build Giant Stadium. And we worked together and that happened. And proud of being able to work with a wide variety of people and to have had that venture happen. Also have been president, as mentioned, of the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities, which is working with about 100 different mayors and council persons throughout the state to enhance things in our community. One of those is like, for example, local government aid, which when we first began that process was about $800,000 to the city. It's grown to be over $1 million during that period of time of working for that. And I can remember as when president, there was a period of time when was discussion on local government aid, and there was a certain chair of a particular committee who was not particularly too much for us, and I wrote a number of letters to newspapers throughout the state, and he responded to that, and finally we called together a time to meet in his office, and I brought along with me one of the mayors from his district, and we talked about things and how important this was for local cities, and how he said, if you stop writing letters, I'll get you that local government aid increase you requested. We did.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Broder. Question number 3, Nick, are you on there?
Yes. Please describe your approach to being a committee leader in Lease Suer if appointed to the Lease Suer City Council. Community leader, I'm sorry.
Good. Thanks. Well, my energy comes from working with people and trying to, as I mentioned, to inspire people, and also to listen to what's being requested by citizens. I thought of that particularly today as I was driving up to my daughter's house who lives in Shakopee, and I was on 169 and I went over the 42 overpass, which is now there, which saves about 5 minutes of travel, which I always heard from folks who lived in our community who worked up in the cities, how they wanted to cut down that time that it took. And that particular project was involved through the coalition of 169, which is from the city of Edina down to North Mankato, and was one of the officers of that board who helped and worked to get $50 million in order for that project to transpire. Also, I believe always to work towards a consensus. It takes everybody working together as a council and as a community, and I always like to try to see that everybody gets a piece of the pie. And one of the things also that I think important is to work to get the most for our money from our taxes, but also during those 4 years I was mayor, that tax levy actually only went up one time.
Thank you. Councilmember Sullivan?
Robert, thanks for being here tonight. Would you please describe how you will facilitate teamwork amongst other members of City Council and city staff if appointed to the council?
Thank you, Marvin. Well, first of all, I think it's very important as a council that you build relationships, that you build a trust, that if your word is given, that's gold. People can count on it. And it's realizing that nobody can do it by themselves. It takes a team to work together. And I believe certainly that it's important as a community and as you work with staff, is to let the staff know that they are important part of what's happened. I know as when I was mayor and also a member of the council, I would often attend the safety training events of the staff. And that was basically just to let them know that, first of all, I cared. Secondly, that they were important, and to let them know that they were appreciated. I think that's really important in terms of with staff. And also to, hey, thank you guys for your service that you do. I mean, I know you always don't get a whole bunch of compliments.
Thank you. Councilmember Schleter?
What is the single most important issue facing our city right now, and how do you plan to address it if appointed to the Lease or City Council?
Thank you, Scott. Well, you know, it always requires a bit of listening as to what seems to be important to a number of people. And, you know, presently that's been kind of tough during this period of COVID. You don't get the opportunity to be out among a number of people to get the answer to that question. But on a limited basis, unlike a calendar used to be quite different a year ago, but on that limited basis, I hear people talk again about infrastructure and importance of our streets. I remember back in about 2014 when we started the 4th Street project, that people were talking about how we need to enhance our streets. And how I know 2nd Street has been now completed and it looks real nice. And now we have the 112 as it goes through the community, of how nice that looks. But I think we need to definitely keep on a plan where we're fixing the roadways in like a 20-year plan every year, so that every street is redone in that period of time. I also think we need to work, continue on places for people to live. I know a number of years ago we put in a waive in the WAC and SAC fees, and the inspection fees were reduced in order to encourage single family housing. I think we need to keep working at to provide places for people who work in our community to have a place that they can become a part of the community. I also think that there's a need for greater community involvement, and that also we need to work to have high quality services, but also to work to keep our taxes at a comfortable level. And kind of with that, I guess that's the end of the question period. I just want to take a moment to thank you all for letting me have this chance to visit with you, for you to listen to me, for me to share some of my thoughts and ideas. I would enjoy very much to be a part of your team and working for the benefit of the citizens of our community. And I just wish you all well and well to our community. And thank you.
Thank you, candidate Broder. Very well done. Thank you very much. Moving on to our next candidate, would it be Johnny Favalis next?
Correct. Yep, correct, yes. And I'm adding him to the panelist list right now. Give me 1 second here. All right. Mr. Favalis should be added. If you can confirm audio, we can get started.
Candidate Favalis, are you there?
Can you hear me?
We do.
Okay.
Thank you. You're going to be asked 5 questions, as you know, and we're going to start off with Councilmember Krogman.
Yes, please describe your background and how it qualifies you to be an effective and responsible member of the Sueur City Council.
Thank you for letting me come and talk to you folks today, Mayor Kirby and council. I was a city council member for 2017 to 2020, Charter Commission 2016 to present, Personnel and Budget Committee 2019 through 2020, Minnesota River Valley Public Utility Commission 2017 to 2019. I was vice chair and in 2017 and chair 2018 through 2019. As a chairperson, I was instrumental in contesting our wastewater permit and argued 2 rounds of arbitration with MPCA and ultimately secured a stay on our permit for 10 years and was able to save the city of Sueur an estimated $1.5 million in unnecessary changes to our wastewater facility. EDA from 2019, 2018, 2017, 18, and then again in 2020. The Rural Entrepreneur Venture, REV, I'm a founding member, 2018 to 2020. Recreation Park and Advisory Committee, RPAC, I'm a founding member, 2018 to present, and I'm the current committee chair. CPAT, our Comprehensive Action Plan Committee founding member, 2018 through 2017 through 2018. I believe I have already proven as an effective and responsible member of the Sueur City Council, and I believe the other members of commissions, committees I have been working with would agree I work hard. I do my homework, I participate, and I rarely miss a meeting.
Thank you. Moving on to question number 2, I'll introduce Councilmember Swanberg.
Welcome, Johnny. Please briefly describe the skills you have developed personally and professionally that will help you as a Lease Sueur City Council member.
My personal skills, I care. I care for my community as a board of directors and board member of the Sueur Lions Club. I've been called upon to chair the Lions Fly-In Pancake Breakfast at the Sueur Airport, the Soaker Walk, Run event, the putting tournament. My wife and I opened up the Lodge Meeting Hall to the community service clubs for their meetings. My father and I created Youth Notech, which is a club for students ages 11 to 18, working in robotics and technology and coding for projects that are civic minded. I have a background in construction, business as an entrepreneur, 2D design or design, 3D modeling, animation, marketing, and graphics. My company has designed over 50,000 projects in fitness facilities across the globe. I specialize in ADA, ASTM, and EN 975 applications. All of those make a difference in fitness facilities, and we happen to have one of our own here in town in the community center. Many of my skills have been put to use as a council member, commissioner, and committee member already.
Very good, thank you very much. Moving on to question number 3, I'll turn it over to Councilmember Lozey.
Please describe your approach. Wait, no, sorry. Please describe your approach to being a community leader in the Suer appointed to the Lease Suer City Council.
Well, this one I don't have to race through. I've been worried about my time. My approach is simple. I get involved, I listen, I work hard. I offer what I can. I accept leadership roles when I'm asked and enjoy serving my community. All of which I've done before through city council and the committees and service clubs.
Very good, thank you. Moving on to question number 4, I'll turn it over to Councilmember Sullivan.
Johnny, thanks for being here tonight. Can you please describe how you will facilitate teamwork amongst other members of city council and city staff if appointed to the Lease Suer City Council?
Thank you, Marv. Sullivan, sorry. Still get nervous at this stuff. I accept every person's role on council and staff. I understand my role is not to micromanage. I frequently discuss thoughts and ideas with my council peers and mayor. I am respectful of the truth that city staff is not my staff, but the staff of the city administrator. I work hard to maintain a friendly, fun, and professional attitude with all that I'm working with to complete the tasks that are at hand.
Very good. Moving on to question number 5, Councilmember Schneider.
What is the single most important issue facing our city right now, and how do you plan to address it if appointed to the Lease Suer City Council?
Thank you, Member Schleter. I still believe that housing is the single most important issue facing our city. In our own business, we've seen issues where we've brought families here to work with us, and trying to secure housing for them has been it's been an issue, whether they're renting or whether they want to buy. In the past, I addressed the issues as a member of EDA and made my decisions based on the council's goals for housing according to the Suer Comprehensive Plan. As a city council member, I would be active in helping as needed by voting on housing issues as they come to council.
Very good. Candidate Fadley, thank you very much for your time and your good answers. Thank you very much. Moving on to our next candidate. Next candidate is Leah Mahoney. Is she on? We'll give Jasper some time to pull her up there.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I have a little series of things I have to do here, but it should be just.
That's fine. Take your time.
Yep. All right. I have added Leah as a panelist. Leah, if you could confirm you have audio.
Yes, hello.
Hey, Leah. Candidate Mahoney, thank you for being with us tonight. We're going to start with Councilmember Krogman, and he'll start with the very first question.
Yes. Would you please describe your background and how it qualifies you to be an effective and responsible member of the Suer City Council?
Yes, thank you. I have a Master of Public Health, and I currently work as the statewide Health Improvement Partnership Coordinator for Brown, Nicollet, LeSueur, and Waseca counties. And I'm hired through the Brown Nicollet Community Health Board and work out of Nicollet County. Through that work, we work on many priority areas, including healthy eating, physical activity, reducing commercial tobacco, and well-being. But in general, public health has many overlapping priorities that I think city council members face, including housing, transportation, and building economic vitality in our communities. I have sat on and facilitated many planning committees including Safe Routes to School, Active Living, Food Policy Council, Food Access Networks, and the MnDOT State Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan. I've lived in Suer for just over 3 years now.
Thank you, candidate Mahoney. Very good. Our next question will be question by Council Member Swanberg.
Welcome, Leah. Please briefly describe the skills you have developed personally and professionally that will help you as a Suer City Council member.
Yes, thank you for that question. So as I mentioned previously, I have participated many times in helping communities develop their active living plans, safe routes to school plans, and comp plans. Specifically through my work, I worked with the city of Suer to have them apply for a mini grant for their parks, trails, and open spaces master plan. But not only developing the plan, it's also important to make sure those are utilized and actions are made on those plans. So for the Safe Routes to School plan here in the city of Suer, I worked with the Suer Police Department to purchase a mobile speed trailer to act on some of those action items within that plan. Personally, you could maybe summarize my job as building community-based coalitions and networks. I also have a background in epidemiology, so I have a strong skill set for reviewing data and statistics, but then using those statistics to tell the human story and engage target audiences.
Thank you. Very good. Question number 3, Council Member Lozey.
Please describe your approach to being a community leader in Suer if appointed to the Suer City Council.
Yes, thank you. So as I mentioned, we've lived in Suer for just over 3 years now. I did grow up in New Prague, so I am familiar with the region, but I would describe my leadership approach by setting an example and showing up, being engaged. Even though we've only been here a few years, we have made it a priority to attend open houses and different planning events so we can have a say in what changes are made in the community. Last year, we participated in the farmers market and enjoyed that very much. I would also say that I served in the United States Peace Corps in Botswana, and there I really learned the value of understanding someone else's perspective, and as a community capacity builder, the value for building local coalitions.
Very good. Moving on to question 4, Council Member Sullivan.
Welcome, Leah. Could you please describe how you will facilitate teamwork amongst other members of City Council and city staff if appointed to the Suer Council?
Yes, so I believe teamwork is really grounded in the understanding that we share common goals. And I think it's fortunate for a council that's outlined in the charter, the code, and the comp plan. We might not always have the same ideas on how those objectives should be achieved, but I think if we respect that we all have our individual strengths and to build upon that, we can get to a consensus. I also think that having really clear communications is important, and then encouraging trust, cooperation, and honesty are values that I hold.
Thank you. Moving on to question 5, Council Member Schleter.
What is the single most important issue facing our city right now, and how do you plan to address it if appointed to the Suer City Council?
Right, thank you. I would say that the single most important issue right now is to really continue to support the downtown development of Suer. And I think huge strides in that have been made that are very visible with the removal of half the mall. But I think it's some of those maybe not so transparent changes to the community that need to be addressed, including businesses that are now going to go into that new space. And so I would work with the EDA to make sure that we have programs available that support entrepreneurship and building businesses in Le Sueur. And I think that spills into a little bit about creating amenities in the community that really encourage families to move here and grow their families.
Very good, Ms. Mahoney. We appreciate your time and your answers. So at this time, we'll move on to our next candidate. Next candidate is Joseph Stitt. Did I pronounce that right? And Jasper is going to pull him into the conversation now, so we'll give him a few minutes to do that.
All right. Joseph, I just added you as a panelist. If you could confirm you can hear us and speak, that'd be great.
Well, I can see that I'm unmuted, but I can't hear anybody talking.
All right.
Me.
Can you hear us, Joseph?
Hello?
Is he there? Can you hear us?
Yep, we can, Joseph, if you can hear us, when we switched over, it might have switched your output for your speakers. It's in the audio section of the panel, and there is usually a drop down with a couple different options. And if you just look at that and try a couple, generally that works. So, but he is looking like he is unmuted, so we can obviously hear him. He did speak, but sounds like he's having difficulties hearing us.
Hello?
Can you hear us, Joseph?
Would he be able to read the questions and just answer them?
Give me 1 second here. Let me just see if I can.
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilmember Krogman. I did hear him speaking.
We can all hear him, he just can't hear us. So I'm hoping maybe if we can communicate.
Apologize, everybody.
Yep, no problem, Joseph. Can you hear us now? All right, I sent him a message to see once if I could get him to go to that audio panel section and see once if he can change his speaker output to some other setting.
Right. We'll give him a couple minutes to work on that.
Yep. Yeah.
Do we have a thought on how we proceed forward if we can't pull him into this?
It would be up to City Council how you'd want to proceed. I can see, looks like he dropped off and might be rejoining here. So just give him a little bit longer. Yeah, it'd be up to City Council how you'd like to proceed. You know, these technical difficulties do
happen.
All right, so he did get added back in as a regular attendee. I'm going to move him over as a panelist again.
Okay.
So Joseph, can you hear us now?
Hello?
We can hear him. We can hear you, Joseph. Can you hear us? It still appears that there's some issues.
Jasper, can you share your screen and write him a message on the screen?
Oh, yeah.
This is Councilmember Krogman. The other option is to have him call in, use the telephone. It's in the invitation.
I am trying.
Okay.
Might be easier just what you suggested to have him read the questions because we can hear him just fine. Let him know that we can hear him and have him go through the questions.
Okay, if you can hear me, let's just go ahead and start with the questions.
Okay. Does that work for everybody else? It's a little, it's kind of, we're doing it on the fly, but I think it's probably a good solution for what we got going on right now.
I think it's the fairest
Yes.
way to proceed.
Okay, so my background, I don't have any experience with city council. I did grow up with a father who was on city council in the, and I'm going to be generous and call it the city of Grenada, Minnesota, a town of 317 people in it. And I watched him be on the city council for 20 plus years. More than that, I joined the Army in 2001. I worked my way up to becoming a sergeant with the 101st Airborne. I led many people through Iraq and Afghanistan. But more realistically, some of my experience that will make me a better member of the city council here in Suer is actually to do with my regular career now, where and I'm going to be giving away some information for some future questions, so bear with me, but right now I'm a process safety management coordinator and also an EPA coordinator for many refrigerated facilities across the northern United States, where I help to balance budget along the lines of what a facility might need versus what a facility might want. And so we have to make sure that we're doing the things that everybody needs with the money that is available. And also, I have a big responsibility in making sure that what a company wants to do is also heard, because the people are what I deal with on a day-to-day basis. And so I do a lot of, I guess I don't know how to describe it better than to say that I listen, make people feel heard, but then at the end of the day, I deal with a lot of government regulation. And so along with needing to be heard, I also have to tell people the hard news that maybe what they may want doesn't fit into the budget of what they have available to them. And so I try to balance that out is what I do. And I think that that's going to be beneficial to joining the city council. So again, the skills that I have, the meetings that I deal with every single day. And again, I manage 16 facilities running from New York State all the way to Idaho, where we deal a great deal with OSHA and EPA. And again, a lot of what I do has to do with making sure that everybody feels heard and making sure that they don't feel like they're just being dismissed, even though I may not be able to guarantee that they can get what they want. On top of that, so I didn't just end in the position that I am now. I started out working in maintenance, turning wrenches, starting at my dad's shop in Grenada. Working through the military, I was always a wrench turner, and it gives me a good perspective. It actually helps me in my career as far as I can relate to people really well. And I think that that's the key to anything, is making sure you can relate to people, make them feel heard, make them feel like what they want is important, but also being able to stand there and look somebody in the face and tell them that it may not be what they expect, but helping them to understand why it may not happen right now, but it'll happen in the future. So I think that being a community leader, I watched my dad do it for years. You really need to be a servant leader. I don't think that you can bulldoze your way into getting what you want. I think that as a matter of, especially as a member of city council, you work for the people, and that goes to everything. I mean, like I said, I worked in maintenance for years, and I was only as good as the people I was working for at any time. And so I think that that is so important to keep that servant leader mentality and realize that you're not going to ever be able to just hard nose your way to an answer. And it also, again, and I'm leading into other questions here, but I think it also comes down to you need to be able to compromise with the people that you work with. And again, so this is exactly what I was leading into. I think to be a member of any good team, you have to be a member. You can't expect to just always get your way. You can't always expect to, again, bulldoze your way to an answer. I also think that education is important. I think that if you're going to weigh in on a subject, you better be pretty well versed in it. And also be willing to back down if you know you're not right, and compromise with the team. And I also believe very much in team building. I think that you can't be on a team without developing some personal relationships. And I think that that really goes a long way, working together and everything like that. And remembering that we're a member of the community. I mean, I wanted to join the city council because I'm a member of this community. I have been since 2014. I kind of blew into town on a whim. I call this place my home and I love it. I live on Main Street. I see what's happening and I'm excited about the future of this town. And I want to be a part of that future. I also think that, this town is poised for great success. And I want to, like I said, I really want to be a part of that. And so as far as facilitating teamwork, I think that it's important to remember to always be willing to compromise. You can't be a bulldozer. The single most important issue facing our city, and I really chewed on this question a long time, and I don't think it has. I think what really is facing the city right now is the need to attract businesses, attract people to this community. I mean, we're quickly becoming a bedroom community to the Twin Cities, and we offer a great deal. I think the project to open Main Street is a huge move for the future. We need to make sure that we're attracting the right kind of businesses to town that are going to bring people to town and bring growth to this community. With that growth, we can address certain things like improving city streets and infrastructure and things like that. But that all comes with time. I mean, it's just we are moving in the right direction. And that's what's inspired me to really become a member of the city council. And so really, ultimately, at the end of the day, the city needs to grow. We need to attract new businesses. That's all going to trickle down. We're going to attract the right kind of people to this community, and that's going to spur that growth that we need. I kind of flew through that. I apologize if I went quicker than anybody expected, but those are my answers as they stand. Sorry, my audio's not working. I appreciate your guys' time.
Thank you, Kennedy Stith. We appreciate your time. I know you can't hear us, but we appreciate your time and your answers. And as we move forward, we'll stick to the discussion first of all. What I'd like to do, and I know you laid out some kind of some ground rules and some expectations, Administrator Krugel. But I'd just like to open up a little bit of discussion and then we'll move into nominations. That's kind of the way we've got it written out here. So at this time, all discussions about city council vacancy applicants must be done so in an open meeting as we're doing now. After all applicants have been interviewed, which they have, city council will begin discussion, which we're going to do right now. So to nominate the applicant to fill the vacancy, the mayor or council member must make a motion. There will be a second motion, and then a vote will then ensure the, after discussion. An applicant is approved with a simple majority. So there's 6 of us, a simple majority of 4 nominates and elects the new vacancy or the new candidate. So at this time, I'd like to open up any discussion anybody has about any candidates. I just want to start by saying we just heard from 4 pretty dynamic people. They all bring in different perspectives. They all bring in different experience. They all bring in some different skill sets, and we appreciate them coming forward to participate in this process. I know at times it can be a bit cumbersome, and it can be maybe a little bit disappointing to some of them too. So, but unfortunately, we can only pick one, and again, I just want to thank them for being a part of this, and at this time, I'll take any discussion from anybody else.
I guess I have one point to make is of the 4, there's 2 that have not been on city council or part of the city of any government of any kind, I guess. And the way it seems to me is people want something changed at this point. They've nominated or they voted me in. So I think we should go with a new person to that group.
Thank you for that perspective, Councilmember Lozey. I hear exactly what you're saying. We've got a couple members that are applying for this position that have some city experience. They've been a part of the city council. One's been a mayor of our city. Let's just bear in mind, if I'm reading you right, Councilmember Lozey, it's great to have fresh new ideas. It's great to have new people. And I think personally, it's great to have some representation from the other half of the city, if anybody follows where I'm going with that. So that's how I feel about things.
Mayor Kirby, Member Sullivan.
Yes, sir.
I guess just from my perspective, I think we've got 4 great candidates tonight. I think any one of them would be a great fit to our city council. I struggle a little bit with the fact that, I mean, we're in January post an election year, so 3 months out, and there's 3 names that were dropped into the hat tonight that didn't make any effort to be put on the ballot. I struggle with that. If we're partway through the year and we have something happen, that's one thing. But I think we have people that are shown to represent our community, put the effort in to get votes from our citizens, got several votes. I think there's a couple names that stand out to me that have made big differences for our community. And I'll leave it at that tonight.
But at the same time, the ones that did put their name on the ballot, maybe that shows something.
It shows something, but on the flip side, there's 3 that also didn't put their name on the ballot. And so we don't know if that's really showing anything.
Maybe we give them a chance.
Good discussion, gentlemen. Good discussion. Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilmember Krogman.
Please, Councilmember Krogman.
When you have highly qualified candidates, it becomes difficult. In a strange way, our votes are open votes, where if we voted on election day, they'd be private. And it puts us in a very difficult position, particularly when we know some of these people or they know us. I would point out that voting no, let's just take an example. If someone is nominated, I may well vote no on a ballot for that person because I think someone else would be my choice. And I think we need to understand that that's going to happen. We could well wind up with a tie vote with 6 of us here. So we have to vote again on somebody perhaps, but I think we just have to be open to that. It's difficult for me to make decisions in these situations, and I think for all of us, but I think we just have to do the best we can and figure out in our mind who's going to best serve on this council for where this city is at this point in its life. And as we nominate people, I'll have other comments, but I'll leave it at that. So, but voting no may well be a way to say, I want to vote for someone else. We're not having an open ballot where we each get to vote for somebody. The way this is set up, we're going to make a motion to vote for one particular person at a given time.
Thank you, Councilmember Krogman. Anybody else have anything?
Mayor Kirby, Councilman Swanberg, being the
Sure.
new kid on the block, I didn't understand the process, and I didn't understand the comments about this being awkward. This is extremely awkward and shouldn't happen again. This is a really poor way to do this, in my opinion.
Thank you. I think I brought that up at the first meeting I let us in, and I don't care for the process either, but it's the process we voted for, and I think this might be something for the Charter Commission to look at, and maybe there's a better way to do this, and it could be set in our Charter Commission and our bylaws. But as we move forward, I agree with Councilmember Swanberg. We've got to look at some different ways to do this, but unfortunately tonight we're going to have to do it this way.
And I also would like to add that that is in no way a commentary on the 4 people. We have 4 wonderful candidates, and we have set ourselves up to make 3 people feel like they are losers, and none of them are losers. We have 4 wonderful candidates.
Very well said, Councilmember Swanberg. Thank you very much.
Mayor, this is Member Schleter.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we do have 4 good candidates here. We have many challenges ahead of us. That's what I am going to be basing my decision on. The people who don't get selected, please consider being on one of our boards or commissions. We definitely need you.
Thank you. I think we've heard from every council person. At this time, we'll move into taking nominations, and because I am a weak mayor, I can make a nomination like anybody else, and I'd like to start by making a nomination on Ms. Leah Mahoney.
Second that.
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
Sorry, Councilman Lozey, second that.
Member Lozey seconded that motion. Any discussion?
Again, this is Councilmember Krogman.
Please do.
Again, a no vote may simply mean you want someone else. It doesn't mean you don't think that she would make or would not make a good council member, but we have to make a choice here. So,
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Krogman. Well put. At this time, we'll take a roll. Administrator Krugel.
Thank you, Councilmember Kirby. I will go down the roll call. We have Councilmember Krogman,
no.
Councilmember Lozey,
Aye.
Councilmember Schleter,
No.
Councilmember Sullivan,
No.
Councilmember Swanberg,
Aye.
and Mayor Kirby.
Aye.
All right, we have a 3-3. That means that motion does not pass.
So moving on from here, Administrator Krugel, the next process would be, can you help us out with this?
Yep. We're just looking for another motion for another candidate. Basically, this process will allow us to evaluate any candidate that gets a motion in a second.
Okay. That said,
Mayor Sullivan.
okay, Councilmember Sullivan.
I'll go ahead and make the motion only because of what I spoke to before. I'd recommend our candidate Fabulous to be our next councilman.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Sullivan for candidate Fabulous. Do we have a second?
Councilmember
Schleter, second.
Excuse me,
We have
Mr.
a
Schluter.
second. Been seconded by Councilmember Schleter. This time we'll take a roll.
Can we have discussion, please?
I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Any discussion? Any comments?
Yes, this is Councilmember Krogman.
Please.
I want to speak about Johnny. First of all, Johnny has been an insightful and very dedicated council member, business leader, entrepreneur. He's been absolutely dedicated to the work of the city council, has led us in many areas, including MRFPUC before it was dissolved and during the process of dissolution. He's been a tremendous member as a team member of the council. That doesn't mean we all agree on things, but he has been a very big help in helping us make decisions. He's simply fully engaged in serving our community. Finally, I think we do have to recognize that he was on the ballot, did see fit to run, to go through the effort of doing that, to show the seriousness of his commitment to this city and to serving on this council. I would simply say real quickly, we would not want to set it up that somebody who did not get elected but had the next number of votes is automatically on. We may not want that process in the future, but in the case of this individual, I think we would want him and should elect him to be a member of this council.
Mayor Kirby and Member Sullivan.
Please.
I'd just also like to speak to this. I sat alongside Johnny when we were up at mediation for Minnesota River Public Utilities Commission, and I tell you what, the city was facing some hard times had Johnny not stepped up to the plate, put a lot of time in. There were weeks where Johnny called me at 11 o'clock at night and he had been working on it all day long trying to figure out what the next step was. He spent hours sitting in Jasper's office trying to figure out what the right direction was. So I mean, I truly believe, I think we have 4 great candidates. I mean, I'd love to serve with each and every one of them. But if there's a candidate that stands above and beyond the rest, along with what Councilmember Krogman just said, with putting the effort in to get on the ballot last November, knowing there was a chance to get elected out or voted out, I think he stands out. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan. Excuse me. I just want to also say that we do have 2 new council members on this council now, and we've got 1 seat open. I'm looking forward to, getting some new and fresh faces, new fresh ideas on our council. Not to discredit John Favalis or Robert Broder or Mr. Stiff, but I'm looking forward just for some fresh new faces, fresh new ideas, and to be quite frank, a little bit of diversity. So with that said, we've had a motion made for Johnny Favalis. Who seconded it, please?
Councilmember Slater.
So I think we should go through the voting process.
All right, thank you, Mayor Kirby. We have Councilmember Krogman.
Yes.
Councilmember Lozey.
No.
Councilmember Schleter.
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilmember Swanberg.
Nay.
And Mayor Kirby.
Nay.
All right, we have a 3-3. That motion does not pass.
We got a stalemate here, gentlemen. Notice I didn't use the word ladies, gentlemen. So with that said,
Councilman Lozey. I'll nominate Stith. Nominate Mr. Stith.
Mr. Stiff, we have a nomination for Mr. Stiff. You got a second? I will second that nomination. Any discussion? Any comments? Otherwise, we'll move on to the roll.
All right, thank you. Give me 1 second here. So I take good notes. Let's see, Councilmember Krogman.
No.
Councilmember Lozey.
Yes.
Councilmember Schleter.
No.
Councilmember Sullivan.
No.
Councilmember Swanberg.
Nay.
And Mayor Kirby.
Yes.
All right, motion fails 2-4.
Motion's failed on 3 out of the 4. We'll do it. There's only one candidate left if somebody wants to nominate him. Otherwise, we're at a stalemate here.
This Councilmember Krugman, we can revote on anybody, I believe. We can get a clarification.
Yep, this is Administrator Krugel. There could be another motion, in this process. It's fine. I think we've had a 3-3 vote on Miss Mahoney and Mr. Favalise. Mr. Stith, 2-4. So I would say it'd be between those two if there'd be, maybe some more discussion about those two candidates and to see if there can be any movement of any votes.
Any discussion, gentlemen?
Mayor Kirby, Member Sullivan.
Yes.
Again, I'll just preach to the choir what I've already said, but Johnny stepped up to the plate. He's been very instrumental with the Main Street project through EDA. He was very instrumental with MRPUC, very instrumental with coming up with a 20-year road plan. These are all things that he's been a part of. And like I said, he took that effort and stepped out, put his name on that ballot again, and ran. There's some benefit to that.
Councilman Lozey? I would agree that, yeah, he may have been instrumental in that. That's possible. But at the same time, he got voted out. And I think that we need to try somebody new for that reason.
I would disagree when you say he got voted out, because essentially there were just more people on the ballot than were eligible seats, where it's the same situation we're in tonight. Somebody's going to get voted out if that's the way you want to say it.
It is the way you put it.
I just, Councilmember Sullivan, I don't want you to take offense to any of this, but I would like to see us move forward with some fresh and new ideas. Not that John Favalise doesn't have good ideas, Bob Broder, he has great ideas also, but I just really would like the opportunity to move forward with as many new council people as I can and the most diversity that I can find. So I'm just gonna stand in the position I'm in.
Yep, and we're all entitled to that.
Yep.
Mayor,
Please, Councilmember Schluter.
what I'm looking for is someone who has proven to me that they are willing to put in the time and the effort. I know nothing about Leah, so I can't say anything about her. I just know someone else who puts in the work. That's what we're going to be looking for.
Yep. Let's bear in mind, this isn't an entitled position either. This isn't entitled because you've been there before. I've done the work before, therefore I deserve this. I understand that, but this isn't an entitled position. So
I agree with that, Mayor Kirby, but I don't believe that's what Councilmember Schluter was trying to say.
Yes, it is.
So with all this discussion, I think maybe all of you are starting to understand a little bit where I was coming from 2 weeks ago. This is very awkward, and we could sit here quite some time and keep hashing this over, people listening in. I'm going to propose that we just take a short recess and go to the bathroom 5 minutes, freshen up, and then we'll come back and we can kind of talk about what direction we go from here. And I don't think we need a motion for that. So, all right, we'll be back in exactly 5 minutes.
I believe we do need a motion for that, Mayor Kirby.
I don't think we do.
To a recess, you do, according to Robert's rules.
Motion to take a 5-minute break.
Thank you. Motion's been made, seconded.
Second.
Thank you. We'll see you in 5 minutes. I think we got everybody back. Is Councilmember Krogman back?
Yes,
Wonderful, thank you.
let me explain to the public. I have a black eye and I'm just not showing my picture. I had an accident where I fell and my face isn't very pretty, so.
It was not a result of this discussion.
Precisely. Thank you.
I would like to, as we pick up and move along here, I would like to entertain some thoughts or some, comments from anybody. My feeling is that this is something we're kind of at a stalemate at right now. I wouldn't mind tabling it for now. I don't know what anybody else's thoughts are. Let everybody,
This
Yep,
council,
yes,
I
go
don't
ahead, Council.
I don't believe it's necessary to table it. I think we understand we have a job to do and we can get it done. I would suggest we open up for another round of voting and see what happens. I think we can do this. By the way, there's probably no good way to do this other than holding a public election, which is very expensive and time consuming. So, we have to keep in mind we're appointing somebody for a 2-year term to complete the mayor's term for his council seat. So, Mr. Mayor, I'd suggest we proceed.
Okay, we can proceed again with this. Again, I can certainly make another motion. I'm looking for some moving ahead with new council people. I'm looking forward to working with new council people, and I'm looking forward to working with a little bit of diversity here and having some good representation by a very bright and articulate woman. So I'm going to make another motion again for Ms. Mahoney.
Second.
Who seconded? I'm sorry, who seconded that?
Oh, sorry, Lozey, seconded.
Councilmember Lozey, thank you. Any discussion, any comments?
She's younger. It's a female. We don't have any of them on here. Family. She may be newer to the community, but that doesn't make any difference. She's been living here long enough that she cares what happens around here.
Thank you, Councilmember Lozey. Well, that said, we'll take another round of votes again. Administrator Krugel.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor Kirby. Councilmember Krogman.
I'm thinking, no.
Councilmember Lozey.
Aye.
Councilmember Schleter.
No.
Councilmember Sullivan.
No.
Thank you. Councilmember Swanberg
Aye.
and Mayor Kirby.
Aye.
All right, we're at 3-3. So that motion does not pass.
Mayor Kirby, Member Sullivan.
Yes.
I as well, I'm gonna go back to my original conversation. I wasn't gonna go down this road. I understand that you want fresh eyes on the city council. I agree completely. Couldn't agree less with you. But unfortunately, we've got 2 new councilmen already on our council. And I've also, in the 1 month that we've been doing this, there's already been 2 meetings of our boards and commissions where 2 councilmen have not shown up to be a part of that they're appointed to. So I want to make sure I have somebody on our board, on our city council, that's going to be in attendance at meetings, be willing to do the work. So I again make a motion for candidate Lease.
Okay, we're gonna do this one more time, and then after this, we're not gonna do it anymore. We're gonna look for another avenue. So we've got a motion for Councilmember Lease. Anybody want to second that?
Schleter, second.
Councilmember Schleter seconded candidate Lease for the open seat.
If Councilman Swanberg, Councilman Sullivan, if you're referring to me today, missing the EDA meeting that lasted 5 minutes, I will apologize for that. I thought it started at 5:30. I tried to log on at 5:25 and the meeting was already done. So I apologize to Samantha and any other committee members if that's what you were referring to.
You are not the only one, Mr. Swanberg. I
Just wanted you to know I was
like I
one of
said, I
those.
want to go down that road, but I want to make sure we have somebody that's going to do the work.
Well,
Okay.
I think you went down the wrong road.
Thank you, both of you gentlemen, I appreciate it. Administrator Krugel, let's take this vote one more time, and then we're gonna find another avenue. This has gotta change, it's gotta change.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor Kirby. Councilmember Krogman.
Please repeat what we're voting for so everyone's clear.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, there was a motion made for John Fablis to fill that vacant seat, and it was seconded.
I'm prepared to vote. I vote yes.
All right. Councilmember Lozey,
No.
Councilmember Schleter,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilmember Swanberg,
Nay.
and Mayor Kirby.
No.
Mayor,
All right.
this is Councilmember Krogman. I would recommend, and please do not close voting at this point. I think we can move forward.
I'm gonna make a motion that we table this for now.
Second that. Lozey.
We've had it seconded. We've had a motion to table this for now. It's been seconded by Councilmember Lozey. Any other discussion?
This is Councilmember Krogman. I'd suggest you vote against this motion. And in the future, you should be recognized by the chair before you move or second anything.
Okay, we've got a motion to table the vacancy council seat for now. Been seconded. Any other discussion?
Mayor Kirby, Councilman Swanberg. Councilman Krogman, what do you suggest as to how we would break this gridlock?
If we vote the tabling down, I'll make a motion for someone.
I'm gonna stick with my motion. And it's been seconded. Any other discussion? Otherwise, we'll move it over to Administrator Krugel to take a vote.
All right. Yes, sir. Kirby, Mayor Kirby, Councilmember Krogman.
This is voting on the motion to table. I vote no.
Okay. Councilmember Lozey,
Yes.
Councilmember Schleter,
No.
Councilmember Sullivan,
No.
Councilmember Swanberg,
No.
and Mayor Kirby.
Okay,
All right, motion fails to table.
okay, we're back to opening the discussion again or taking other nominations.
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilmember Krogman.
Please.
I would move that we elect Leah Mahoney.
We've got a motion to elect.
Lozey, second.
We've got a motion by Councilmember Krogman to have Ms. Leah Mahoney fill that vacancy seat, which has been seconded by Councilmember Lozey. Any discussion or comments?
Again, if I might, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, this is Councilmember Krogman. We know we've had 4 very highly qualified candidates. We've talked extensively about them. I don't want them to personally think we do not like them or approve of them. But I think this is a way to move forward with a qualified candidate. I would urge the others who were involved to continue to serve this community, or at least to begin serving in some way. That's all I have to say.
Councilmember Krogman, I think that is something that every one of these council gentlemen would agree with. Thank you. So with that, we'll take a roll.
Thank you, Mayor Kirby. Council, this is to appoint Leah Mahoney to City Council. Councilmember Krogman,
Yes.
Councilmember Lozey,
Yes.
Councilmember Schleter,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Swanberg,
Aye.
and Mayor Kirby.
Aye.
All right, very
Thank you
good.
very much, gentlemen. It's unanimous.
All right. Thank you.
I want to, first of all, congratulate Councilperson Leah Mahoney on her new position, and we're looking forward to meeting with her. Thank you, gentlemen. I know that was a very, very awkward and very difficult process we just went through. Hopefully, it'll be a long, long time before we have to go through that again, and I wouldn't mind re-examining the procedure as we move forward. With that said, we'll move on to item 6B, Transportation Plan. Administrator Krugel, please.
Thank you, Mayor Kirby, members of the City Council. Tonight we have, it was included in the packet, a transportation plan that's been looked at the Planning Commission level and is recommended for approval by the City Council. Ultimately, the idea is that this is amended to our comprehensive plan, which is another separate process that we will eventually hold for a few other items that we've passed as well in the future. We do have Corey Beanfang, city engineer, here to go over the transportation plan and answer any questions that anybody may have. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Beanfang and let him present on the transportation plan.
All right, thank you, Mr. Krugel. Good evening, Mayor and council members. So tonight I'm hoping to cover the following items relating to the transportation plan. I just wanted to briefly cover what is transportation planning, discuss why we went through this exercise of making this plan amendment, review just a few of the items that we covered. You did have the full final plan in your packet, but just wanted to cover briefly on a few of them, and then just kind of summarize and identify how this is intended to be applied as we move forward and hopefully experience that future growth and development that we're identifying. So transportation planning in a real basic high level is the process of defining future policies, goals, investments in design to prepare for future needs to move people and goods. So not inclusive to industry or commercial, not inclusive to just residential, but the movement and transportation of all facets. And the purpose is to provide guidance to help a community or a city prepare for those needs, and really premised around the idea of growth and future development, laying a framework to help a city manage and plan for that growth. If you don't mind. So the reason for this plan, notably in the 2040 comp plan adopted in 2016, there is a transportation section, but it's brief, and I would say it doesn't hit on all the intent and components of what a traditional transportation plan certainly doesn't go into the depth and I think application to the city of Suer specifically, and that's really what we identified as probably the biggest miss is the application of Suer and really that tie to how that gets applied. It does touch on classifications. What it does really well though is it identifies the goals and policies, and we use that as the framework for this plan. So we really took those goals and policies of the 2040 comp plan and applied them specific to Suer. In a nutshell, that's the intent and goal of this amended plan. Come on, Jasper. So content of the plan. I'm going to cover here probably three of the main components of the transportation plan. The first and very traditional transportation planning is the functional classification. It's really the hierarchy, the structure of roads, and it's based on the premise of access and capacity, and really what is the intended access and capacity for those roads, starting at the various high level in the city of Suer, the principal arterials. That's what you see there in blue as your 169. So really really restricted access, minimal in access, and the intent and capacity is to carry goods regionally, even multi-state. So it higher speeds and restriction of accesses. Minor arterials, the next level down, we'd see those in, say, that Highway 93, a little bit more frequent of accesses, but still really premised around that regional, that transportation of goods and people. And then down to a major collector, which we have a number of in the city of Suer, focused there in the purple around your county state aid roads, still of regional influence, but definitely has a much more access focused and more local element. And then the minor collectors, and we took a lot of emphasis on this plan amendment to start to categorize the minor collectors. Those are now going to start to identify your local city streets, but again, with the idea of more mobility and connectivity as far as the networking aspect of getting around the city, and then down to your lowest level, your locals with no color designation, and really premised along high access points and really functioning as your residentials. So then another component of that plan is you take that hierarchy of roads and you apply a jurisdiction. So that agency that's responsible for making decisions related to those roads is responsible for the upkeep, for the design, standards applied, and looking at that, the responsible government agency. Within the transportation plan, we identify that really, categorized by the three first there, the city, controlling those minor collectors and locals, the county, Suer County, controlling the major collectors, and then the state or MnDOT really focused for the sake of Suer on those arterials. Another piece of the plan, the amended plan specifically, is a hard look at the geometric design standards, really tying that back to the city of Suer. Again, realizing the intent of the functional class, again, the intent of what kind of traffic and the type of transportation they're intended to carry, whether it's just vehicles, whether it's looking at, again, those multi-users, trails and sidewalks, and allocating a range of standards or intended geometric requirements based on those classifications, looking at lane widths, again, sidewalk and trails, what are those minimum widths, looking at the design speeds, notably the characteristic of a road, the geometry that does have some indication of the design speeds, and then looking at right-of-way needs. So within this plan, we identified those based on those different functional class, and looking here at an example of what the local city street would look like. Giving some range, not meant to say that there's any perfect solution to either, but just identifying what those different standards should be in targeting, specifically when you're building, future, roads of a particular functional class. And then really honing in on the application, and there's several pages dedicated to this, really that application as it relates to future development, and it's a framework again to recommend and hopefully achieve future roads that are safe and are successfully able to accommodate the traffic flow, the capacity that they're intended to. It's an intent to have some ideology and some recommendation to make sure that that future road network is intertwined and able to be successfully extended onto and connected in with future development, realizing that development just doesn't happen overnight and instantaneously fill an area, but that there's considerations for how that continues to grow in the growth area that we focused on in this 2040 plan. It is pretty extensive and extends a good ways outwards from the city. And so wanted to make sure that we captured that and had some concept level, at least ideas of how to serve traffic in those areas. And really on that premise, it's a concept. It's a best estimation based on industry practice and guidance, but realizing that it's a guide ultimately. and that there is flexibility to this, and that actual routes and actual, implementation will come as that development need is presented, and through, most specifically that preliminary planning process. And so just mindfulness as planning commissions and as councils are looking at, these developments at the time that they occur, that there's a consideration, beyond this. And I think really that's what the transportation plan is hoping to help capture. If you don't mind, Jasper. So an example of this, here we have two different maps on the screen. The one in the more middle is kind of premised around the existing city framework, the existing city limits, and you'll see, more on the south end there's some intent as far as what those minor collectors might look like in the southeast portion of the city should development occur, and looking at that growth area. What a network of roads, what a recommendation or concept level plan would look like for those. And then on the very right hand side, looking more, kind of globally, and really at the full extent of that growth area, looking at the criticalness of what those connections will be to that principal arteria to 169 to continue to service that, but then admittedly realizing that the access needs will be far greater than what 169 will allow. And so looking at that frontage road connection, consisting likely of a major collector. So just giving some framework and some intent and thought to how we serve that development at the time that this should happen. So the plan that you see before you was presented to the Planning Commission in two different meetings, similar to the rest of the amended plans, as Mr. Kruger alluded to. This would become an appendix, an amendment to. So we're not removing any language of the current adopted comp plan, but we're just adding, I guess, additional detail and context. And so the recommendation based on the feedback from the Planning Commission, as well as I think what our intent is from a staff level tonight, would be to request City Council approval of this amended transportation plan.
Mayor Kirby, if I may be recognized, I want to add a couple things.
Sure, please.
Thank you. So as Engineer Beanfang alluded to, we have a few plans out there that we've adopted as a city council, such as our Parks Open Space Trails plan, and this transportation plan potentially that we're going to look to amend to our comprehensive plan, our major planning document in the future. That itself has its own separate process associated with it. So what we're looking at doing, and that's kind of funneled through the Planning Commission, those comp plan amendments, and then they go to City Council ultimately. But there's a public hearing involved with that as well. But what we would do, we're looking to approve this tonight, but in the near future, sometime in 2021, there will be I'll call it kind of a global update to the comprehensive plan that will be proposed to the Planning Commission with all of these City Council approved plans. And then we would hold a public hearing, and then it would ultimately go to City Council for final approval. But then at that time, that would be when we would have a fully amended comprehensive plan with all of these different planning documents that we've adopted over the last probably year and a half. So that's just kind of a recap of the process. There are a couple steps after this potentially if this is approved. But ultimately what we're trying to do is really get our comprehensive plan dialed in to include all these additional plans as appendices that we can look at in one place. So that's kind of what we're looking to do and accomplish over time here, which will be in the future in 2021.
Thank you, Administrator Krugel, and also thank you, Mr. Beanfang. I appreciate all your information and your input. I want to ask at this time, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Beanfang or Mr. Krugel?
Mayor, this is Member Schleter.
Please, yes, go ahead.
First, I want to thank the Planning Commission, Director DiMaggio, and City Engineer Beanfang for the effort that was put into this much needed plan. I like what I see, and we're finally getting all the pieces put into play. And I also liked what Jasper had to say. I've got a lot of things I'd like to put to the planning commission at a later date for things that may be revised on this or added to, but right now it looks good.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion? Otherwise, we can go ahead and entertain any motions that on item 6B, the transportation plan, that the city council approve the final amended transportation plan. Motions, please.
This member Schleter, I'll motion that we move this to.
Thank you, Councilmember Schleter. Do we have a second to that motion?
Mayor Kirby, this is member Sullivan. I'd second that.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan, or I'm sorry, Councilmember Sullivan. Is there any discussion, any comments? Otherwise, we'll turn it over to Administrator Krugel for a roll.
Thank you, Mayor Kirby. We'll go Councilmember Krogman,
Yes.
Councilmember Lozey,
Aye.
Councilmember Schleter,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Swanberg,
Aye.
and Mayor Kirby.
Aye.
Very good, thank you.
Next on the docket would be reconnecting Main Street. That would be item number 6C. Administrator Krugel.
Thank you, Mayor Kirby, members of City Council. Tonight is kind of an extension of the previous meeting that was a joint meeting between the Planning Commission and the EDA to kind of get briefed on what's going on with the Main Street project. Tonight, as you've been updated periodically, at this council, actually, this might be the first time that they're seeing this touch point. But in the past, there's been updates as far as what's going on with Main Street. But right now, we're in the process of doing some design. And tonight, we're looking to approve final design. And we're ultimately, our timeline, as Engineer Beanfang will go over, has us bidding this late winter, early spring time period, potentially. So we have Engineer Beanfang available to present on this item as well. You know, very exciting, as we've heard in other commentary previously. You can see that the mall's obviously missing part of it, part of the mall right now, and you can kind of see down where the new Main Street will go. So with that, I'll turn it over to Engineer Beanfang, and he can kind of go over this agenda item, and we can discuss it more at the end.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kugel. So, Mayor and council members, this is an exciting one. So we've identified this project as reconnecting Main Street. You saw on the kind of the introductory slide there, we created a bit of branding and really excited about the potential of this project. And so from a standpoint of inspiration, I think notably, this has been a goal and objective of the city for a long time, for a number of decades. And we took inspiration from the comprehensive plan, the downtown focus area. And there's a lot of words and text here. And I guess it kind of just, symbolizes how much discussion and planning has really been put into place to get to this point. But focusing on some of the key pieces there, uses at all hours of the day, all seasons, lively streets, realizing that Main Street's your core of your downtown, a place that's safe and friendly for pedestrian traffic and for businesses. Looking at design amenities that enhance not only the historic piece, but the character, emphasis on streetscape that define a district. And then really with that word chart there, realizing that Main Street's the heart of a community. It's the heart of Suer. So if you don't mind, Jasper. Additionally, not only understand that we have a comprehensive plan, but we also have a downtown master plan that was adopted a year later in 2017, but also talks about and guides the development of that Main Street area emphasizing on aesthetics and amenities that consist of trees and benches, planters, emphasis on crosswalks, a festival street, outdoor dining. Again, talking about pedestrian, the speed reduction and control, and really that users of all times and all years. And so we're pretty excited based on that inspiration to share what the Main Street concept intended to look like. And that'd be the next slide, Jasper. And I think, notably, I think we've captured a lot of this, and that, as Jasper shared, we shared with the EDA and the Planning Commission, and really this is our preferred final concept, and with intent of really obligating all of those criteria or listing of objectives. And I can walk it through. This is our over the top or aerial view of our concept. I can walk through this briefly, and then we have some renderings that I think are pretty powerful in capturing the intent. But realizing it's a one block connection here, starting on Ferry Street on the south and ending on Bridge Street on the north. From scope of project, we are going to remain outside of the intersections. When we did the Trunk Highway 112 turn back, we had planning and intent to make this connection, realizing that at the time it wasn't literal and wasn't as far as long as we are today, but we are able to make that connection without getting into the intersection. And then with the 36 project planned that encompasses Ferry and South Main to the south and east, we are gonna stay out of that intersection, let the intersection be handled as part of that project plan for year 2022. And stay within kind of the one block confines. But Main Street overall, it will have a 90-foot right of way as acquired through the mall demolition and that transaction there with the new mall ownership, Tiller and Main. But really, it's an emphasis on that multi-user. Main Street obviously will be a connection for cars. We're designing with the mindfulness of having a tight, low-speed connection. So there's not intended to be large vehicles or commercial trucks on this block. They will continue to go around the block on the county roads, and you'll see that with the bump outs and the protruding in and protruding out curb lines. We also have a lot of what we call streetscape features with the treed boulevards. We have the overspanning street lights that you see there in that angled pattern. So really emphasizing on that pedestrian friendly, that traffic calming, those things that I listed prior. And then also an emphasis on that gathering space, a large area along the east side there with the mall and with some unknownness with those tenants really being able to provide for a wide range of use and hopefully feasibility and viability for that mall to redevelopment. So if you don't mind, Jasper, I think we'll just get into it. I've got a series of 4 renderings here, and I'll just kind of talk through them here to give some context, and then we can answer any questions. But this would be a rendering standing at what would be the northwest quadrant of Ferry. This would be standing at the bar, looking to the northeast. So you can see one of the uniquenesses of this connection is on the west side, on the currently developed side, everything will be at street grade or consistent to what the Ped Plaza was before, the pedestrian mall before. The road elevation and those building elevations are equal enough that it'll be a traditional, what I'd call urban boulevard, urban corridor on the west side, the left-hand side. And you see that there with the traditional curb and then the sidewalk and the paved areas. Notably then on the east side of the right-hand side, folks that recalled in the mall, there was a ramp as you entered the mall, whether it came from the pedestrian mall side or the parking lot side, but there's a ramp that comes up. The finished floor of the mall is actually elevated a little over 2 feet. And so what they did when they demoed the west side is they took that west side ramp out. And for the new development, for what will be taking place in the mall main level, that will stay at that raised 2-foot elevation. So we had to come up with a kind of a uniqueness in the design to accommodate that the mall is actually 2 feet higher than Main Street. And we've done that in this raised plaza or pedestrian area. So you'll see that with the walls and the stairs. And what we've emphasized is a ramp on each end to lead up that ADA accessibility. So really tying in what we feel in a pretty creative way of capturing that elevation change, but yet still making it feel welcomed and have some of that historical feel with the limestone and some things that are characteristic to Suer. So that's the, kind of talk through this rendering, if you don't mind, Jasper. So then this would be looking back then from Bridge Street south. So again, realizing that for the entirety of the west side, we're all at street level there again. Sidewalks are flush with the building users today, FFM and the bar and the green mill. And then on that east side, capturing that elevation all the way to the north. That raised plaza would be the full length of the mall. A similar aesthetic, north to south as far as the wall features go. Tying in that landscape, you can see the street light characteristic there. What you see on kind of the lower left is a kiosk intended to bring some sort of electric displays, some sort of changeable message sign to welcome folks in the community, realizing Bridge Street's a main connector for us, an entryway to the city. So putting emphasis to that and being able to message folks and welcome them. We're playing on the element of metal structural with relation to the river bridge and some of the industry that we have. And so we're incorporating some of the steel characteristics. You see that they're captured in that electronic sign. If you don't mind, Jasper. So then this would be looking probably be almost right from FFM if you're standing on their roof line. This is a mid block, and so we've accentuated the mid-block crossing, again, having a traffic calming feature with that, with bringing the curb lines in tight, very similar to the bump out concept that you see up on 5th Street now, where you shorten that pedestrian crossing, bring those curbs in, calm speeds, and then tying in some more of the structural steel elements with some ornamental or structural elements. You see a blue river there theme. That would be literal. That'd be a colored concrete river theme to tie into our river town and some of the historical aspects with that. It's intended to be an all concrete project. So we'd be looking at concrete in the sidewalks, probably some sort of colored contrast in the concrete boulevard area. And we'd also are planning to move forward with a concrete street. Tying into that durability and that longevity, a little bit more suitable to festivals, closing it down, accommodating summer food trucks and benches and tables. And so we think the concrete really achieves the aesthetic that we're looking for and that usability. If you don't mind, Jasper, I got one last one. And then this would be standing probably on the roof line of the mall in the very what would be northwest corner of the mall or southeast corner of Bridge and Main, looking back down and kind of get a contrast, a capture again of that elevation change. We do have some interior block ramping off that raised pedestrian crossing to accommodate some ADA accessibility mid block, and then just showing again the capturing of some of that ornamental lighting. We would have lighting within the wall to help light that space along the mall, make that inviting, that kind of all user, all day theme that we've been hearing. And so that's the last rendering that I have for you, if you don't mind, Jasper. So really where we find ourselves is, we've been through about a 9-month planning process here as far as, getting this mall to move forward. We had the mall ownership change happen mid last summer. We really, started our concepting of Main Street really officially at that time and spent the last 7 to 8 months getting to this concept level. And we've found some buy-in from the other commissions, and I'm hoping to receive a similar level tonight from the City Council. Intention is to take this concept and advance right away into final design. We have an aggressive final design schedule to try to capture some of the competitiveness with spring bidding. We'd like to be out for bids in March here, and really see the ability to realize this improvement here this summer. The mall's on a construction schedule of 2021 as far as finishing their mall work, and are really hopeful and planning for then opening a Main Street, later this fall to kind of see this whole project come through. So that's where we would ask us, the council tonight, is to, give us that buy-in of the concept, allow or authorize us to move into final design, and then we would come back then with those final plans, but with intent that those are, accurately capturing the concept. That would officially allow us then to go out for bids. And at which time we would come back then obviously with the bids and award the project. So a couple of other steps yet forthcoming, but really just wanted to showcase here what we came up with. So with that, I'd turn it over to Mr. Krugel if I missed anything, or be happy to answer any questions or receive any comments.
No, Mayor Kirby, if I may just reiterate, I know Corey did say this, is that the final plans prior to it being authorized to go out for bid would come back to City Council. And Corey, when do you think that would be?
I'm anticipating the second meeting of February, Mr. Krugel.
Okay, so that would be the February 22nd meeting potentially, and then after that we would proceed with the bidding and opening of bids, and then another touch point would be when we would award this bid. And at that time, when we do have final plans developed, we will have an engineer's estimate. Keep in mind, we have about $857,000 that we've received in a deed grant for the mall redevelopment. We really put all of that into the street project. Corey, along with Samantha DiMaggio, the community development director, and Shannon Sweeney, somebody that you've become accustomed to seeing regarding some of our finances. They're all working together with Deed to make sure that our bid package will match up with what the reimbursables are for the project and what we've been awarded the grant for, to make sure that we can capture all of those funds. So, and keep in mind that Deed grant is also a 50% match. So there is some local contribution required for this. So, and I think we're pretty much there as far as finances go, but we will know those final numbers once those final plans are developed.
Thank you, Administrator Krugel, and thank you, City Engineer Corey Beamking. I must say those plans you just showed us are very exciting. It looks very welcoming. I think it's gonna do wonders for downtown. And I'm really looking forward to seeing more plans as we move along with this. And we got to bear in mind, this is just kind of a rough draft from the way I understand things, and final drafts will be coming as we move forward. So with that, we're going to ask City Council approve the preferred concept and order preparation of final plans and specs to be brought back to the City Council for final approval. And I'd ask for any motions.
Mayor Kirby, prior to a motion, I actually have a piece of discussion.
Please.
I just want to acknowledge, Corey, I think these plans look great. EDA actually seen them last month. There was a lot of positives out of that conversation. And I do want to acknowledge that the City of Suer just received the Project of the Year award for this project from the Economic Development Association of Minnesota. So congratulations to the Jasper and your crew.
Thank you. With that, you're going to follow up with a motion?
Absolutely. I'll make a motion to move forward with this project.
Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan. Do we have a second?
Leader, second.
Second.
We've got 2 seconds. City Councilmember Schleter and City Councilmember Swanberg. Any other discussion? Any other comments? Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Administrator Krugel for a roll.
Thank you, Mayor Kirby. We'll have Councilmember Krogman.
I'm going to vote, but I want to point out we're voting on what's on the screen. I vote yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Lozey.
Aye.
Councilmember Schleter.
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilmember Swanberg.
Aye.
And Mayor Kirby.
Aye.
Very much. Motion passes. You will see this again. I believe the next touch point will be February 22nd.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On to item 6D, the water tower approval. We touched on this a little bit in the last meeting. At this time, I'll turn it back over to Administrator Krugel.
Thank you, Mayor Kirby. Last meeting we did speak about the water tower and just kind of gave a a kind of a heads up, a cursory review of the project itself. Tonight, we're actually looking for some approvals to move this along to the bidding process. I'll turn it over to either Engineer Beanfang or Public Services Director Kuchera, whoever wants to take this presentation.
Nobody's jumping here.
Well, we had previously planned
Engineer
that.
Corey Beanfang, go ahead.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Oh,
No problem. You must have had a problem with the mute, I'm guessing.
Yep, my pager went off, so I wasn't able to unmute my phone, so I had to wait for my pager to clear. Sorry about that. Yeah, so 2 weeks ago, we discussed the 1 million gallon composite water tower, and we are here tonight to ask council for approval to go ahead with final plans and specs and get the tower project posted for bidding. Next slide, please. As you see in the attachment, or on the screen there, the water tower is in the same location where we showed it last week or 2 weeks ago. Sorry about that. We wanted to show you this. The entrance for the tower will use an existing curb cut that is in the fire hall parking back row. So we'll use that, and then when the project is done, that crosshatched area, the parking on the south side of the fire hall, that bituminous will be replaced because it will probably be well wore out from all the truck traffic that's going to go across it. But this way, we're utilizing it. We're not putting another access point into Bullwright Street or Kingsway. A couple other things to note. You can see on there, there's a security fence around there, and the other thing is, I believe, what do we call it? Natural plant screening. So we're in the process of coming up with some vegetative screening, some type of trees, shrubs, and other options we'll be working on to go from the evergreens that are behind the fire hall to the west property line to give a little more scenic greenery to our neighbors there. Next slide, please.
Rich, Member Sullivan, can I ask a question about that previous slide?
Go ahead.
When you were talking about that screening, are you referring to like along the cemetery side or the fire hall side, or both?
Referring to the cemetery side.
Okay, thank you.
So project schedule, we are at of course, the January 25th meeting. If council approves this on 1/28, we'll upload plans and specs to the Quest CDN for advertising. February 3rd, the project will be in the newspaper for 3 times, repeat 1 time every week for 3 weeks. February 16th, we will plan to open bids. February 22nd, we will be back at the council meeting, so you'll have another big meeting with Main Street and this, hopefully to award a project at the February 22nd, and planning contractor to have a start date of May 1st and a wrap up of 2022, as Administrator Krugel referenced earlier about the police impound vehicles, that we will be needing to get those out next year because the old tower will come down next year when this new tower comes online.
And one thing I will add, sorry, one thing if I may add, the financing component, we touched on it a little bit at the last meeting, is a public facilities authority loan program. So the same loan program that we used for the wastewater treatment plant. Obviously that was a $21 million project. This is significantly less, but it's the same program, Administrator, as far as the financing goes.
Yes, so as Administrator Krugel said, yes, we're part of this, part of the requested action is so that we can complete the TFA loan application, which also requires a resolution from City Council. So this, the resolution, the forms 5 and 6,
to go out for bids. I mean, this will all go forward for the construction of a new concrete tower, new concrete riser section with steel tank over the top. Like I stated, we're working on the natural plant scenery. Construction includes the removal of the old tower once this tower is online. And a little side note, staff is working with Lena Beck, local artist from town, for alternate option for painting of the entire steel tank area. So that will be an add alternate item that will be added to the project. So when that comes forth and we get the bids, council will be able to review the concept drawing and the price tag to implement such an item as part of the project. With that, I can take any questions, or Corey could take questions. Or...
Anybody have questions, comments? Go ahead.
Mayor Kirby, Member Sullivan. I just have a quick question in regards, Rich, you said that you're working with Lana Beck for the painting. If we do change that painting, is the plan then eventually to upgrade the other 2 water towers to that same design, or are we gonna have 2 that are the current and 1 new one?
Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan. My plan would be to, as we upgrade and maintain the water tower, so as we repaint them, which is every 15 to 20 years, we would update those other 2 towers to be unique in scenery and design, just like this one will be unique by itself.
Thank you.
Mayor Kirby, Councilman Swanberg,
Yes, please.
is Lana Beck the only one that the city will be working with, or will other artists have an opportunity to contribute their designs?
At this time, we're just working with locally Lena Beck, as we have worked with her on some other projects in the city. Part of it would be on Main Street and on North Main Street as you're coming in on the old Green Giant building for the billboard over there.
Good question. Thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions, comments?
Mayor Kirby, Member Sullivan.
Yes.
Actually, just to follow up on Member Swanberg's question, would there be any concern in asking potentially other artists to get involved with things like this?
I would think at this point we might be getting pretty late in the process. I'd have to defer to Mr. Beanfang to clarify on that.
Yeah, I think if it's it, if I may, Councilmember Sullivan, if it's intent to this tower, I think we would struggle as far as an aspect of timing goes. But if the question was related to Councilmember Swanberg's, as far as, you know, if for future consideration, there's other artists that are interested, I think that the answer is absolutely yes.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. And I don't know, Member Swanberg, if that's kind of what you were looking for, but you triggered that in my mind. I'd like to see some more involvement as well.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was a contract that Lana had with the city, because I know that there are other graphic arts designers who live in our community, and I was just curious. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all legitimate concerns. I appreciate your input.
Mayor, Member Schleter,
Yes, sir.
that's just an option, correct?
Correct.
Correct. So the base tower will be white with the city logo, as you see in the image. City logo on the water tower twice.
Thank you. If we may move on with the requested action, if there's no other comments at this time, staff is requesting the city council to approve the final plans and specifications for the 1 million gallon composite elevated water tower project. Allow for official advertisement of bids as outlined, approved to sign Form 5 and 6, and authorize the application for a PFA loan per R 2021-004. With that, I'd entertain any motions.
Mayor, this is Councilmember Krogman, so move.
Sullivan, second.
Okay, Councilmember Krogman, Councilmember Sullivan, seconded. Any other discussion, comments? concerns? Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Administrator Krugel.
Thank you, Mayor Kirby. For the motion, the requested action is on the screen. We have Councilmember Krogman,
Yes.
Councilmember Lozey,
Aye.
Councilmember Schleter,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Swanberg,
Aye.
and Mayor Kirby.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Moving on to regular agenda item 6E, transfer memo.
Thank you, Mayor Kirby, members of City Council. Today, we officially don't have a finance director as of last Friday. So Zach Dowd, previous finance director, prepared this memo, kind of teed it up for me to present, and I'm going to go over it with you because there's a lot of moving parts with this, and hopefully I can make it clear as far as what we're proposing to do with this resolution. In summary, staff is proposing a series of end of the year transfers to close out some unused funds prior to the 2020 financial audit. So this was a comment that was made, if you remember back for our 2019 audit, that we have a bunch of these funds, and you can see some of them are over almost 20 years old. So there's funds that are 20 years old that haven't seen any activity for over a decade. Just to close them off of our books, then they're not included in our balance sheet, and we can kind of move from I think 40 different funds down to keep picking away at the ones that we don't use, so they're not on our balance sheet. It's just kind of a bookkeeping exercise mostly. Just going through the resolution, just to make it clear what's actually happening, I'm going to go through each one of the proposed transfers and what fund, and basically the way I have it set up is I have a column on your PowerPoint that says action, and then the fund that money is going into is on the left, and then the amount, and then the fund that it's coming from is where it's coming from. So if you have questions, let me know. I'm trying to make this as least confusing as possible. So the HRA fund, which we no longer use, would receive $16,508.82 from this Suer Hilltop Improvement Fund that hasn't been used since 2008. So there's a balance in that LSHI fund. The Youth Opportunities Fund, there hasn't been any activity in there. There would also be a transfer of $5,822.90. Keep in mind that this would make both the HRA and the Youth Opportunities Fund zero, and then we could close them out. And then the GO Tax Abatement Fund would also receive $7,490.04 from that Suer Hilltop Improvement Fund. That would then make that the GO Tax Abatement Fund zero, and then the LSHI fund would also be zero, and that could be closed after the $3,633.99 transfer to the Fire Service Fund. So basically, in summary, this group of transactions is closing out that LSHI fund, moving money out of it into HRA, GO Tax Abatement Fund, and the Fire Service Fund to offset small deficits that we've had on the books for some years for that transfer. But at the end of the day, all of the funds, the HRA, the YO, the GO Tax Abatement Fund, and the LSHI fund would be zeroed out and then closed prior to the 2020 audit. The Fire Service Fund, that's an active fund that has had a deficit in it for some time. The next series of actions would be the Fire Service Fund would receive $3,748.23 from the Pavement Management Fund. That's just a remnant of just some transfers that were set up. That Pavement Management Fund has been discontinued. We now have a Capital Improvement Fund. And then the Fire Service Fund would also receive $28,063.89 from the GO Improvement Bond of 2001. That's an improvement bond that still has a balance in it from 20 years ago now. And then the fire service fund would also receive a transfer of $19,213.91 from the GO improvement bonds of 2002, so 19 years ago. And then the airport fund would receive a transfer of $42,921.04 from the GO improvement bonds of 2002. And then to cap off the GO improvement bonds, the community center fund, that 615 fund that currently has about, as of 2019, like $600,000 in deficit, would receive the remaining balance of that. So then that GO improvement bonds of 2002, that fund would be zeroed out, and everything else would be out of deficit except for the community center fund, but we would pick away at it a little bit. So the last section that we have going on here is there's one transfer that's being recommended for we've created this fund per a GASB General Accounting Standards Board or Government Accounting Standards Board recommendation for our capital leases that we have for 2019. We were separating those out of our capital improvement fund, but in the past, so like in 2019, we've allocated funds, 2019 and 2020, we've allocated funds in our CIP fund to pay those leases. But per that GASB and recommendations from our auditors, we're pulling out those leases into their own separate fund. And in turn, we then have to pull that cash out of that capital improvement fund. And then also the last one is the sewer fund. So our I believe it's 602 fund would receive, we'd final out the MRPUC fund reimbursables. So in that MRPUC fund that we had, that we dissolved MRPUC in 2019, there was reimbursables that get paid after the fact, things that were owed to the city of Lesueur from, let's say, Henderson for work that was done, that our crews have done for Henderson. That money was then put into this MRPUC fund. We haven't seen a transaction go through that fund for over about a year now. So what we would do is we transfer that $70,731.08 from the MRPUC fund to the sewer fund that's active, and then we would close out that MRPUC reimbursables fund. So a lot of different moving parts. It's general housekeeping, but in order for us to do this, we do need city council approval. So what you see is resolution 2021-005 outlines all of these transfers that would be approved if this resolution is approved to the various funds as described, I guess, probably in a little bit more detail than the memo or the resolution itself. So we're looking to get that approved, and then basically Zach has queued that up for somebody who's not exactly familiar with the software just to get it to work. So that's my presentation on this, and I'll entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Administrator Krugel.
Thank you.
For everybody that's especially for the two new council people, this can be pretty complex. Like Administrator Krugel explained, that there's a lot of moving parts. Basically, what we're doing is consolidating, maybe simplifying some funds, maybe discarding some different accounts that are obsolete, and that's what we're trying to move with here. What resolution is this? It's got a title. It's going to come up on the screen for us.
Yeah, so it's resolution 2021-005.
Okay, very good. Any questions?
I have one, Mayor Kirby, Councilman Swanberg. Administrator Krugel, how are these disbursements? I mean, they're kind of some odd numbers. How are they determined?
Yep, very good question. So during our audit process, when we final out our books every year, some of these funds have money in them. So for example, I'll use the GO improvement bonds of 2002. There was a project that drew money out of this account or this fund for the GO improvement bonds of 2002. They didn't use all of the funds, so it's some odd number, not a round number. And then all the other funds, so the fire service fund or the community center fund, it's just kind of a running total of after the year-end audits and the budget year is closed out, if there was a deficit. So some of these have a smaller deficit, some have a little bit larger deficit, but these deficits have been accruing for years and years. And it's just, they're small enough where the auditors don't really say too much. For the example, the airport fund is $42,000. That's grown, not so much in the last 3 or 4 years, but if you have 10 years where you're, $3,000-$4,000 over budget, that just kind of accumulates over time. And that's why it's kind of an odd non-round number, is because it's just the accumulation of a deficit over many years that we're trying to clean up. And we just so happen to have, some funds that are positive, some funds that are negative. We want to get rid of the funds that we don't use anymore, and we're pulling the positive cash, moving it towards some deficits, and then, hopefully working on those deficits so we can hit 2021 in a better position on our general ledger that you see in our audit.
Got it. I understand the closing out the accounts. I get. I'm glad to hear you. So all these funds who are receiving dollars are in a deficit.
That is correct. Yep. Some of them, the fire service fund has a deficit. Airport fund has a deficit. The community center fund has a deficit. Yep. All the HRA fund, YO fund, and the GO tax abatement fund. Correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mayor Kirby, Member Sullivan.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Jasper. Following up on that question, so how was it determined which funds got, say, like the fire service, roughly $52,000, rather than maybe putting that into the community center deficit with potential of doing other things? How did we determine which accounts got that money?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there were some internal calls made on this, and really we had a list of funds, so like the fire service fund, that were ones that had a smaller deficit. So like you said, the fire service fund was at $52,000. And I say small, it's not small. It can be a significant amount, but it's amounts that we could tackle with the current fund balances that we had in some of these older accounts. So that was the recommendation from the auditors, were to basically move the money around so that the funds with money would then offset the funds that have the smaller deficits, and then develop a plan for the community center. So we're kind of addressing all of the questions, or all of the concerns and questions that the auditors had, with their 2021 budget of allocating some funds for the community center deficit, and then kind of using some of that free cash that we have sitting in accounts that aren't being used to offset the other deficits.
Okay, and then my only other question is that youth opportunities one.
Yep.
Is that the balance that was due on that we tried to collect?
So good question. It is not the balance that was due. That money was collected from that. So that was just at the end of the day, there's a deficit there, and I do not know off the top of my head what that deficit's from, but just a little reminder there that the city of Suer ran the finances. We were the fiscal agent for youth opportunities, and ran their payroll and that type of thing, and disbursements. And over time, there was a deficit that was accumulated in that fund. There was some things that we requested some cash back for, which we were paid for eventually, but there still is a deficit in that account.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Anything else? You all have a copy of the action in front of you. I'm going to give you a few minutes to read it over. I'm not going to read all those. I'll just read the requested action. At this time, the requested action that is set forth in front of us is motion to approve R 2021-005, which transfers $663,926.08 to various funds as described. Any comments?
Mayor Kirby.
Yes.
Member Sullivan, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve resolution 2021-005.
Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan. Do I have anybody who'd like to second that?
Councilman Swanberg, second.
Thank you, Councilmember Swanberg. Any other discussion? Otherwise, we'll turn it over to Administrator Krugel for a roll.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Kirby. Let's go Councilmember Krogman.
Aye.
Councilmember Lozey,
Aye.
Councilmember Schleter,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Swanberg,
Aye.
and Mayor Kirby.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to item 6F. Ordinance number 589, second reading, city council meeting time.
Thank you, Mayor Kirby.
Want to explain a little more? We covered this a little bit at the last meeting.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor Kirby, members of City Council. We did conduct the first reading, or we waived the first reading at the previous City Council meeting. There was a request to change and completely remove Section C, which in your packet in the red line version, you will see we have completely removed Section C. And in the ordinance itself, it indicates that Section C has been removed. Basically, what we're accomplishing with this ordinance is cleaning up some city code that listed what times we met. So for our organizational meeting and for our regular meetings, it actually defined it. What we've done is we've changed the language to leave it up to city council to set their meeting times as long as they follow procedures that are consistent with Minnesota open meeting law. So what we have been doing for some time, I don't know how far back it went, but for some time our practices kind of slid from what was actually in city code. And it was brought up by, I believe, Councilmember Krogman, and we're addressing that right now. So as you can see, the process, we did have the first reading on January 2nd. Tonight, you have the second reading potentially and potential adoption. If this is adopted, we will look to get this published in the Suer County News on February 3rd. And then this goes into effect 7 days after it's published, which would be February 11th. Subsequently, our city code online is also updated once this goes into effect. So the city code digital version is updated in accordance with this. So what we're looking for tonight, and this is the process I'll kind of go over again, is we're looking for a motion to waive the second reading and adopt ordinance number 589. In order to waive the reading, there has to be a unanimous decision. If the decision is not unanimous, then we must read the ordinance itself. So I'll leave it at that. If there are any further questions from City Council.
No questions? Otherwise, we'll move into the requested action. Motion to waive the second reading and adopt ordinance number 589.
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilmember Krogman. So moved.
Yes, sir.
So moved.
Councilmember Krogman made a motion, and we'll move on to the second motion.
Schleter, second.
Councilmember Schleter, thank you very much. We had a motion, it's been seconded. I'll give it to Administrator Krugel to read the roll.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Krogman.
Aye.
Councilmember Lozey.
Aye.
Councilmember Schleter.
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilmember Swanberg.
Aye.
And Mayor Kirby.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Item number 6G. This would be to consider appointment of a financial director. We, as you all know, we just had our financial director, Mr. Dowd, moved on to another position. His last day was last Friday. Am I correct, Jasper?
That is correct.
So at this time, we will consider appointment of a financial director. I'll turn it over to you, Administrator Krugel. You've been pretty involved, of course, with this process.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Kirby. As you alluded to, former finance director resigned effective January 22nd, 2021. So that was on Friday. We did have a pretty extensive interview process. I'll go over it a little bit. The first round, we had a full virtual interview. We had 15 applicants. We invited 8 of them, I believe, 8 of them back. to the first round virtual interviews held by myself and Stacy Lawrence, the HR director. Then the third round or second round of interviews was an in-person interview that was held with what I call the leadership team, or all of the directors and myself. And we interviewed, I believe we had 4 candidates, one withdrew, so we interviewed 3. And then the third interview was an in-person presentation that the two candidates made at the fire hall to the leadership team, myself, and then the admin staff. So our customer service technician, utility billing coordinator, recreation technician, and police records tech were also involved with that, because they work with this person on a day-to-day basis, and I wanted to get their input on the candidate. So at the end of the day, we narrowed it down, I think, to 2 very good candidates. The one that is recommended for approval tonight, Joseph Roby, rose to the top, and that's who we're recommending to be hired as the finance director. As a reminder, this position was posted, and these are rough numbers, but it was basically between $94,000 and $121,000 based on the compensation and classification plan that was adopted by City Council in 2020. So what we've come to terms with, and I have negotiated this with Mr. Roby, is a starting salary of $95,000, a PTO credit of 40 hours, a service credit of 6 years, and what that affects is just the PTO accrual rate per year. Depending on your years of service, you accrue PTO faster. We have a phone stipend at $100 and a vehicle stipend at $400. And I did get a couple of questions about the vehicle stipend, and we did talk about it at the last, forget who the last individual was that we appointed or that we hired that received the stipend. It might have been Zach, actually. Sorry, the former finance director. And we kind of had a conversation about that. And I wanted to make sure, all of these terms, are out there, and we talk about them if there are questions. But really what we do with the vehicle stipend is there's a lot of times where we have an employee, a director, going from one building to another, and we don't have a vehicle that's set aside for them to use, a city vehicle in the fleet that we can use for that type of thing. Also, the attendance to conferences and things of that nature. We could have some months where you don't have much movement from City Hall to other buildings, but then other months you could have a lot where this doesn't really balance out. The other thing you have to take into account with the vehicle stipend is just the time that your director is spending to compile that, because that's also a cost to the city per se. So my opinion is that I want my finance director doing finance stuff, and at the end of the day, I've kind of tracked it myself internally. Just are we getting is it good, bad, otherwise? And it seems to kind of work out, because there's months where I'm driving over to La Center, finance director's driving over to La Center, meeting with the county numerous times, or up in the metro. Now still with virtual meetings, not so much, but I think those are going to start ending here soon. So just a little history on the vehicle stipend. So those are the terms that we came up with as I negotiated to talk to Mr. Roby. And what I'm recommending, so it says staff, but really the city administrator is recommending that the city council approve the hiring of Joseph Roby as the City of Suer finance director. I've been in communication with Joe. He's a tremendous candidate. I think a lot of people on city council probably know Joe and have worked with him, known him for some time, since he has grown up in the community, lives here, has a family, he's on the school board. So I think he's a good fit. He'll be a good fit with the crew that we have right now at City Hall as far as the leadership team goes, and I'm really excited for this opportunity to have him hired as the finance director. I will entertain any questions that City Council may have on this recommendation to hire Joseph Roby.
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilmember Krogman. May I ask a few questions from our city administrator?
Please, yes.
Jasper, to be clear, so everybody understands, the stipend for a vehicle is paid to the individual whether they travel or not. What it does is it does not then require that there be travel vouchers and reimbursement and all the administrative work. I want to be clear, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. The second is, what plans do we have? Has Mr. Roby been doing any type of city administration type finance work at all?
No, so I can elaborate more on that. And that's a good question because I hope everybody understands I'm kind of a planner and I was kind of nervous about this opening, right? And I have numerous contingency plans. You know, if we didn't get a good candidate here, we would likely go down the path of contracting out these services. So in my back pocket, we have a couple different tools that Joe will be able to use to get acquainted. So he doesn't have much municipal finance experience, but he does have finance experience, you know, through his previous employer, which is it's not a government agency, but it's a nonprofit. I would say, I believe that's the designation, Ridgeview Hospital. So there is some experience, but not an exact match. So we have a couple things that I've lined up. Obviously, you know, our previous finance director has offered to help out as much as he can, knowing that he's obviously learning a new system where he's at. But you know, there's no doubt in my mind if we have a question, they will answer, and that's very much appreciated. On top of that, we also have our auditors. We've been lucky to have the same auditors, Bergen KDV, for the past 4 years. So they really know our books too. And we're going to be jumping right into an audit process. So that process alone will actually help get Mr. Roby more acquainted with our finances, the inner workings, the books, you know, that type of thing, because we will be doing an audit here for 2020 in the next couple months. And then on top of that, we have AEM Financial Services, the group that did provide the consulting services. I've received quotations from them as far as what support would cost to help out if needed. There might be some need for audit prep, so there's quite a bit of work that goes into preparing documents for the auditors. Now, you know, the previous finance director has developed very robust procedures and protocols for doing these things. There's no doubt in my mind that we're going to have questions, but I think we're in a pretty good place, and we have a lot of different options to help out. Plus, they have Mr. Roby has myself who can kind of mull around in that software as well and help out where I can. And I know the general architecture of how everything's made up, and we also have our utility billing coordinator who has worked in that system for over 10 years. So we do have resources to work out, and there's no question in my mind that Mr. Roby will be able to get up to speed in quick time.
Jasper, this is Noel again. Thank you very much. That was exactly what I was driving at, and I was hoping you would explain that. Certainly, Mr. Roby has, I have full confidence in his ability and your screening of him, but I think we need to know that this is a very complex position, as we've learned from some mistakes made by people doing it in the past. So,
yes.
Thank you. Anybody else before we move ahead? I just want to say real quickly, I think all of our council people know Mr. Roby. I think I guess I'm speaking for everybody. He's I think he's a very bright and intelligent young man, and I think Administrator Krugel, you set forth in front of him lots of resources, and of course you're a big resource for him too. And I have all the confidence in the world he'll do fine. He's gonna have a little learning curve at first, but I'm sure he's gonna excel well at this position. With that said, we can move on to the requested action.
Mayor Kirby,
Yeah.
I was just gonna go ahead and make the motion to.
Oh, please, I don't need to read what's in front of you. Go ahead.
I'd go ahead and make a motion to approve the hiring of Joseph Roby as our finance director for the city of Suer.
Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan. Do we have a second?
this is Krugman, so second.
Councilmember Krogman seconded. Any discussion, comments? Otherwise, we'll move to Administrator Krugel for the roll.
Thank you, Mayor Kirby. Councilmember Krogman,
Yes.
Councilmember Lozey,
Yeah.
Councilmember Schleter,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Swanberg,
Aye.
and Mayor Kirby.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Last item, board and commission updates. As I told you when I first got on, became mayor, I'm gonna do things a little differently probably than our former mayor did. Instead of calling every one of our council members out, I'm just gonna ask, anybody have anything they'd like to report? If so, just put your hand up and go ahead and give us your update.
Mayor Kirby, Member Sullivan.
Please.
I have a few tonight. We had an EDA meeting tonight. I just want to thank Brian Farr. He was a long-term member on the EDA. Of course, at the beginning of the year, he did step aside as he is now a state representative for our district. We did appoint new chair and vice chair. Jesse Winish and Dan Mahoney stepped up to the challenge. So they'll be taking that on again this year. Just want to thank them. Also, as I said earlier, the Project of the Year award from the EDA Association of Minnesota was awarded to the city of Lease, Suer. Transit, Minnesota River Valley Transit, we met right after our last meeting. The main thing coming out of that was we did get funding from MnDOT to continue the free fares through 2021. So as we've been doing since the beginning of the pandemic, the rates for anybody using the transit system will be free through the end of the year.
Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan. Anybody else?
Mayor, this is,
Go ahead, Scott.
Councilmember Schleter, please.
okay, first off, HRA meeting Wednesday, January 20th. It was a short meeting. Mark Huntington was elected chair, Larry Ling vice chair, and Jack King secretary treasurer. 169, there were a couple meetings since our last meeting, January 14th. There was a Mankato corridor study. That's an ongoing input. So if anybody wants to make any input for the Mankato area, that's still ongoing right now. Thursday, January 20th, the 169 Corridor Coalition had a general membership meeting. They had a recap of the past year. They also talked about the upcoming projects. First of all, the preliminary layout for the Jordan area freight and mobility project, the Bloomington Ferry Bridge. They're looking at the Ports of Savage Trunk Highway 13 freeway conversion. They're working on a US 169 mobility study for a min-pass lane and a bus rapid transit. They talked about the Mankato corridor study and the St. Peter interchange. And there is another meeting on February 1st for a legislative update on 169. Upcoming meetings, Council of Greater Minnesota Cities. We've got our legislative action day meeting on Wednesday. That's it.
Thank you, Councilmember Schleter. Anybody else?
Yes, this is Councilmember Krogman. Just two things. Number one, as just mentioned by Councilmember Schleter, Legislative Action Day with the Great Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities will be this Wednesday. I'll be working with Councilmember Schleter to arrange meetings with our senator and our representative, but we'll be meeting with the coalition on Wednesday. Secondly, City Administrator Krugel and I were working with the MMPA, that's the Minnesota Municipal Power Agency, of which we're a member. And we were working on the idea of an electrical charging station. We had a meeting set up and coincidentally, it suddenly showed up on the agenda last Tuesday. I was not able to attend that meeting as I was participating in an activity with high school students here as part of their educational program. City Administrator Krugel was able to attend and does have a report for us concerning concerning the installation of an electrical vehicle charging station. If I may, I'll turn it over to him, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Krogman. Yeah, so a new initiative that was approved by MMPA was to have a dual vehicle charging station in every member community. So what that means is that they're kind of working through the details on what that will entail and what's required for that. But the board has approved that initiative. So somewhere in Suer, I think we have a spot potentially in mind that's in the parking lot behind the, I guess, how to describe it, the bar and FFM and that area to the west of those buildings to put an EV charging station. That's sponsored by MMPA. Part of that reason why is because in 2022, when we have the South Main Street project, that parking lot we're looking at possibly renovating and enhancing, to do some changes to that parking lot as well. So, but yeah, MMPA has approved that, and we're going to get some more details here shortly as far as what that means.
Thank you, Administrator Krugel. I appreciate your input there. Lastly, anybody else? Otherwise, I'm going to conclude with just by saying I want to thank our 4 candidates tonight for spending time at our meeting with us. I would have been fine with any one of those 4. They're all talented people. I hope they don't take this personally. I just kind of see our council is got some bright and wonderful ideas. I'm excited about the new energy we have coming in, the new people we'll be working with, and I want to welcome Councilperson Mahoney to the council. I'm looking forward to meeting and working with you in the future. And lastly, I just want to say to all my council men for now, and it will be soon I'll be addressing you as council persons. As we move along, don't take anything personal as we disagree. I know you're, I don't need to tell you this, we're going to have other disagreements. Don't take it personal. These are some of the things we need to work through as we try to move ahead with some of the work that needs to be done for the city. So with that said, I appreciate your time tonight. I know it was quite long. We'll try to be mindful in the future with these meetings, and I would entertain any motion at this time to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Councilman Mosey.
Thank you, Councilman. Seconded by
Sullivan.
Councilmember Sullivan. Thank you. With that said, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll see you in 2 weeks.